The surprise attack of the coffee in Commander Sarah Chun's mug had gone cold hours ago, but she barely noticed. Her weathered hands gripped the ceramic handle as she stared through the reinforced viewport of Neptune, mining station Alpha 7, watching ice crystals dance in the pale blue light of the distant sun. At 52, Chen had spent more than half her life in the depths of space, mining the frozen wealth that kept Earth's colonies running. Tonight felt different, though she couldn't quite explain why. "Commander, you should get some rest, Lieutenant." Marcus Rivera called from the communications console, his young face illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays. The 26-year-old had joined the station crew just 8 months ago, fresh from Earth's Naval Academy, still eager and optimistic about humanity's place among the stars. Chen turned away from the viewport, her dark eyes scanning the bustling command center. "Too much on my mind, Marcus. The quarterly reports are due tomorrow, and we're behind quota on the helium-3 extraction." She paused, noticing the slight tremor in her voice. Something was wrong, but what? The answer came at exactly 3:42 a.m. station time. When Chief Engineer Alina Volkov burst through the command center doors, her usually composed demeanor shattered. The 45-year-old Russian had served in Earth's military for 15 years before joining the mining operation, and Chen had never seen her look so alarmed. "Commander, we have a problem," Volkov announced, her thick accent more pronounced than usual. "Deep space sensors are picking up multiple contacts, moving fast, really fast." Dr. Kenji Nakamura looked up from his quantum analysis station, his thin fingers dancing across holographic controls. The brilliant physicist had been monitoring cosmic radiation levels when the readings began spiking. "Commander, these aren't natural objects. The energy signatures are artificial, and they're accelerating beyond anything we've seen before." Chen moved to the central tactical display, her years of experience kicking in. The hologram showed 12 distinct contacts racing toward the station at incredible speed, their trajectories perfectly calculated for maximum impact. "Time to intercept." 14 minutes, Rivera reported, his voice tight with tension. "Commander, I'm trying to hail them on all frequencies, but there's no response." The objects were sleek, dart-shaped vessels roughly 30 meters long, their hulls gleaming with an alien metal that seemed to absorb light. As they approached their true nature became terrifyingly clear. These were missiles, and they were aimed directly at Neptune Mining Station, Alpha 7, all hands. "This is Commander Chen." Her voice echoed through the station's corridors via the intercom system. "We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. All personnel report to emergency stations immediately." This is not a drill. The next few minutes unfolded like a nightmare. Station Alpha 7 had minimal defensive capabilities, designed for mining operations rather than combat. The automated defense turrets swiveled toward the incoming threats, their plasma cannons charging with desperate intensity. But 12 missiles against 6 defense turrets was hardly a fair fight. Volkov's fingers flew across her engineering console, rerouting power to the shields and weapons systems. "I'm giving you everything I can, Commander, but these systems weren't designed for military engagement." Dr. Nakamura's analysis revealed the horrifying truth about their attackers. "These are Zephyrian design signatures," he announced, his voice barely above a whisper. "The energy patterns match their military specifications exactly." The Zephyrian Empire had maintained an uneasy peace with humanity for the past decade, but tensions had been rising over mining rights in the outer systems. They were known for their advanced technology and ruthless efficiency, traits that made them both valuable trading partners and dangerous enemies. At 3:56 a.m., the first missile struck the station's outer ring, where the primary mining equipment was housed. The explosion sent shockwaves through the entire structure, causing lights to flicker and emergency alarms to wail. The second and third missiles followed in quick succession, targeting the habitat modules where most of the station's 200 personnel lived and worked. Hull breach in Section 7. Rivera shouted over the chaos, his hands working frantically to coordinate damage control teams. We've got 47 miners trapped in the lower levels. Commander Chen gritted her teeth as another explosion rocked the station. The Zephyrians had chosen their timing perfectly, striking during the night shift when most of the crew was asleep or working in the deepest parts of the mining complex. It was a calculated attack designed for maximum casualties. Chief Volkov managed to get the emergency blast doors sealed, preventing complete decompression, but the damage was severe. 3 of the 12 missiles had found their marks, while the remaining 9 had been destroyed by the defense turrets or had missed their targets in the chaos of the engagement. Casualty report, Chen demanded, her voice steady despite the circumstances. 17. Confirmed dead, 32 injured, and 47 missing in the collapsed sections. Dr. Nakamura reported, his medical scanners working overtime to locate survivors. The main mining shaft is completely blocked. As rescue teams mobilized to search for survivors, Chen focused on the bigger picture. This wasn't a random attack or an accident. The Zephyrians had deliberately targeted a civilian mining station. An act of war by any measure. But why now? What had changed in the delicate balance of interstellar politics? The answer came when Lieutenant Rivera intercepted a Zephyrian military transmission that hadn't been properly encrypted. "Commander, you need to hear this," he said, patching the audio through the command center speakers. The alien voices spoke. In their native language, a series of clicks and whistles that the station's translation software converted to English. Phase 1 complete. Human mining operation neutralized. Proceed with territorial claim as planned. Chen felt her blood run cold. This wasn't just an attack. It was the opening move in a larger Zephyrian expansion into human-controlled space. They had tested humanity's response time and defensive capabilities, and now they knew exactly how vulnerable the outer colonies were. "Get me a direct channel to Earth Defense Command," Chen ordered. "Priority Alpha clearance." Within minutes, she was speaking directly with Admiral Rebecca Stone, the hard-nosed military leader responsible for humanity's outer system defenses. Stone's scarred face appeared on the main view screen, her steel-gray eyes taking in the damage. Reports with professional detachment. "Commander Chen, I've reviewed your situation report," Admiral Stone said, her voice carrying the weight of command. 47 of your people are trapped, 17 dead, and the Zephyrians are claiming salvage rights to your entire sector. "They're testing us," Chen replied, her anger barely contained. "This was a probe to see how we'd respond. If we don't hit back hard, every alien species in the galaxy will think humanity is weak." Admiral Stone nodded grimly. "Agreed. I'm mobilizing. Task Force Hammer for immediate deployment. The Zephyrians want to see how humans respond to aggression. They're about to find out." As the hours passed, rescue teams managed to extract 31 of the trapped miners. Those 16 were lost in the collapsed sections. The station limped along on emergency power, while repair crews worked around the clock to restore critical systems. But Commander Chen knew that the real battle was just beginning. Earth's response would define humanity's reputation among the stars for generations to come. The Zephyrians had made their move, calculating that humans were too far from Earth to mount an effective counterattack. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. In the depths of space, the message had been sent. Humanity would not be bullied, and those who threatened human lives would face consequences beyond their imagination. The devastating retaliation 18 hours after the attack on Neptune mining station Alpha 7, the Earth Defense Council convened in emergency session. The sleek conference room deep beneath Geneva buzzed with tension as military leaders, politicians, and scientific advisors gathered around the holographic display showing the devastation at the mining station. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood at the head of the table, her uniform bearing the insignia of 30 years of military service. At 58, she had seen humanity's expansion into the stars and the delicate diplomacy required to maintain peace with alien species. But today, diplomacy had failed. "Ladies and gentlemen," Stone began, her voice cutting through the murmur of conversation, "the Zephyrian Empire has committed an act of war against a civilian target. 17 humans are dead, 16 more presumed dead in the collapsed mining shafts. This aggression cannot go unanswered." Defense Minister Williams, a portly man in his 60s, raised a cautious hand. "Admiral, perhaps we should consider diplomatic channels first. The Zephyrians might claim this was a rogue action, not sanctioned by their High Council." Stone's eyes flashed with controlled anger. "Minister, they used military-grade stealth missiles launched from a coordinated strike formation. This wasn't some rogue captain having a bad day. This was a calculated test of our resolve." Dr. Sarah Martinez, the Council's chief xenobiologist, leaned forward. "The Zephyrians have been expanding aggressively for the past 5 years. They've absorbed 3 smaller species and claimed dozens of systems. They see humanity as the next obstacle to their dominance." "Then we remove that obstacle," Stone declared. "Operation Thunderstrike is approved. We launch in 6 hours." The plan was audacious in its scope and devastating in its intent. Task Force Hammer consisted of 8 Ghost Hawk stealth bombers, 4 Viper-class fighters, and 2 Titan-class destroyers. Their target, 3 major Zephyrian military installations in the Kepler 442 system, the heart of the Zephyrian empires. Military might. Captain Jake Morrison, callsign Reaper, led the bomber squadron. The 34-year-old pilot had flown more deep space missions than anyone in the fleet, his reputation for precision and lethality preceding him wherever he went. His weathered face bore the scars of combat, and his dark eyes held the cold focus of a predator. "Listen up, people," Morrison addressed his squadron via secure comm channel as they prepared for departure. "The Zephyrians think they can murder civilians and get away with it. We're going to teach them the difference between humans and prey." The journey to Zephyrian space required a 72-hour warp jump through the darkest reaches of interstellar space. During the transit, intelligence reports flooded in from deep space reconnaissance drones that had been monitoring Zephyrian activities for years. Commander Lisa Park, the task force intelligence officer, briefed the strike teams on their targets. "Primary target is the Nexus Prime military complex on Zephyr Beta. This facility houses their fleet command structure and manufactures their most advanced weapon systems. Secondary target is the orbital defense platform protecting their capital world. Tertiary target is their main military academy." The Zephyrians had built their empire on the belief that superior technology and ruthless efficiency made them unstoppable. Their military doctrine emphasized overwhelming firepower and quick victories, tactics that had served them well against less advanced species. They had studied human military capabilities and concluded that Earth's forces were competent but not exceptional. They were about to learn the fatal flaw in that assessment. When Task Force Hammer dropped out of warp at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, they found the Zephyrian defenses exactly as intelligence had predicted. Massive orbital platforms bristling with weapons, patrol fleets moving in predictable patterns, and sensor networks designed to detect conventional attacks. But the Ghost Hawk bombers were anything but conventional. Using quantum stealth technology that bent light around their hulls, they were virtually invisible to Zephyrian sensors. The bombers slipped through the outer defenses like ghosts, their crews maintaining absolute communication silence. Ghost leader to all units, Morrison whispered into his comm system. Targets acquired. Weapons hot. Remember, we're not just sending a message. We're writing humanity's reputation in fire across their sky. The quantum bombs carried by each Ghost Hawk were humanity's most closely guarded secret. Unlike conventional explosives that released energy through chemical or nuclear reactions, quantum bombs manipulated the fundamental forces that held matter together. The results were both beautiful and terrifying. At exactly 0347 hours, Zephyrian time, 8 quantum, bombs detonated simultaneously across 3 military installations. The explosions didn't create the massive fireballs typical of nuclear weapons. Instead, they created expanding spheres of pure energy that dissolved molecular bonds and reduced matter to its component atoms. The Nexus Prime military complex simply ceased to exist. One moment it was a sprawling facility housing 50,000 Zephyrian military personnel. The next, it was a perfectly spherical crater 2 kilometers wide. The orbital defense platform suffered the same fate, its massive bulk vaporized. In an instant, the military academy, located on a moon orbiting the capital world, vanished without a trace. But the human strike force wasn't finished. The Viper fighters screamed through Zephyrian space, their plasma cannons destroying communication satellites and sensor arrays with surgical precision. The 2 Titan destroyers emerged from warp at the system's edge, their massive railguns launching projectiles at near-light speed toward Zephyrian naval shipyards. In less than 20 minutes, humanity had crippled the military might of an empire that had conquered dozens of worlds. The Zephyrian High Council, watching their most secure installations vanish from their sensor screens, realized they had made a catastrophic miscalculation. The alien leaders, beings that resembled upright lizards with metallic scales, had built their empire on the principle that strength was the only language the galaxy understood. They respected power and despised weakness, traits that had served them well in their expansion. But they had never encountered an enemy that could strike so precisely and devastate so completely. High Commander Vexter, the supreme leader of the Zephyrian military, stood in his command center watching the destruction unfold. His elongated skull bore the scars of countless battles, and his golden eyes had seen the fall of entire civilizations. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. How many casualties? He asked his aide, a younger Zephyrian whose scales had not yet hardened with age. Preliminary estimates suggest 200,000 military personnel killed or missing, came the trembling reply. Our 3 primary military installations are completely destroyed. Fleet Command estimates it will take 15 years to rebuild our capabilities to pre-attack levels. Vextar's clawed hands gripped the railing of his command platform. The humans had not simply retaliated. They had demonstrated a level of military sophistication that rendered Zephyrian expansion plans obsolete. This was not the response of a weak species defending itself. This was the calculated action of a civilization that understood the language of power better than the Zephyrians themselves. Send a message to the Human Defense Council, Vextar ordered, his pride warring with the cold logic of survival. The Zephyrian Empire withdraws its territorial claims in human space. We acknowledge that the attack on their mining station was ... an error in judgment. As news of the devastating human counterattack spread throughout the galaxy, other alien species took notice. The peaceful traders, the aggressive expansionists, the ancient civilizations that had watched younger races rise and fall, all of them revised their assessments of humanity's place in the galactic community. Captain Morrison led his squadron home through hyperspace, their mission complete and their message delivered. In the darkness between stars, he allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Zephyrians had tested human resolve and found it stronger than they had imagined. Commander Sarah Chen, still coordinating rescue efforts at Neptune Mining Station Alpha 7, received word of the successful strike via encrypted transmission. As she looked out at the stars that had once seemed cold and hostile, she realized that humanity had crossed a threshold. They were no longer the new species struggling to find their place among the stars. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would remember the price of underestimating human determination. The 17 miners who had died in the Zephyrian attack had not died in vain. Their sacrifice had forged humanity's reputation in the fires of retaliation, ensuring that future generations would explore the stars under the protection of that hard-won respect. The message was clear to every species watching. Humanity had arrived, and they would not be intimidated, bullied, or conquered. They would defend their own with a ferocity that shocked even the most warlike civilizations, and their response to aggression would be swift, decisive, and absolutely devastating. In the depths of space, among the ancient stars that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, a new truth had been written. Do not test humanity's resolve. The price is higher than any species can afford to pay.